الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. يقول سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ودخل معه السجن فتيان قال أحدهما إني أراني أعصر خمرا وقال الآخر إني أراني أحمل فوق رأسي خبزا تأكل الطير منه نبئنا بتأويله إنا نراك من المحسنين. صدق الله العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما. اللهم أرنا حقيقة الأشياء كما هي. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. آمين يا رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We're continuing our journey with Yousaf alayhi salam, where we concluded, which was the 35th ayah of the surah. The people in authority had deemed it justice, quote unquote, that they incarcerate Yousaf alayhi salam, that he be put in jail. The elitist women of that particular society, they could not be controlled. What they could control was somebody who did not have authority, somebody who did not have power in that society. Even if he was innocent, he was framed and imprisoned. وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ السِّجْنَ فَتَيَانٍ, and two young men also joined him in prison. قَالَ أَحَدُهُمَا إِنِّي أَرَانِي أَعْصِرُ خَمْرًا. One of them said, I saw this dream that I was squeezing to extract wine. وَقَالَ الْآخَرُ, and the other one said, إِنِّي أَرَانِي أَحْمِلُ فَوْقَ رَأْسِي خُبْزًا. I saw a dream in which I was carrying bread on my head. تَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْهُ, and birds were picking from it. نَبِّئْنَا بِتَأْوِيلِهِ إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Let us know of the interpretation of this. We see that you are a man of excellence. Again, Yousaf alayhi salam, even in jail, he stands out. He stands out by his character, his akhlaq, who he is as a person, how he deals with people, how he carries himself. The people in jail see that he doesn't belong here. He is distinguished in how he carries himself. Again, he hasn't said anything, he hasn't preached anything, he hasn't, as far as we know, invited anyone to any call, any tawheed whatsoever. It is just his character that makes him stand out. And so when people are in need, they know who to turn to. They know that there is something. Do we even need this? I can go without it if you all can move up. There's sisters upstairs, okay. Then we have to bear with it. It's background music. Okay. So he stands out just by his character, and people know that if we need help, if we need any assistance, where to turn to. He has made that clear by virtue of his conduct. قَالَ لَا يَأْتِيكُمَا طَعَامٌ تُرْزَقَانِهِ إِلَّا نَبَّأْتُكُمَا بِتَأْوِيلِهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَأْتِيَكُمَا. So Yousaf alayhi salam responded, you will not be served the food you are provided, so whatever the meal time is, by the next meal time. Before that happens, I will have given you the interpretation for the dreams that you've brought to me. ذَلِكُمَا مِمَّا عَلَّمَنِي رَبِّي. This is on the basis of what my Rabb has taught me. Now this is his opportunity as well. Again, he's a prophet of Allah, he has a responsibility. As he is bringing something which is useful to the people, he is also letting them know where the usefulness of his expertise comes from. Why does he have this expertise to begin with? He attributes the greatness, the excellence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنِّي تَرَكْتُ مِلَّةَ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. I have in fact forsaken the religion of those who do not believe in Allah. Again, that puts a lot of burden on the shoulders of those who claim truth. All of us followers in the footsteps of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hopefully adherence to the Quran, do we stand out in our conduct as people of ihsan? Do people turn to us for solutions of contemporary problems? Are there challenges that we can put our hands up and say, we have demonstrable solutions to the challenges, to the problems that you're confronting? And then attribute our efficacy, our effectiveness to what we have been given by Allah. There is a consistent theme in the Quran as to how the believers are supposed to be shuhada. They're supposed to be witnesses for Allah unto mankind as representatives. There's even du'as in the Quran, رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا, that Allah do not make us a fitna for those who are zalim, for those who are kafir. That when they look at us, they don't see that conduct of ihsan. When they look at us, we do not have any practical solutions to provide. When they look at us, we do not bring any skill set to the table. We do not bring any insightfulness, any acumen through which whatever the social problems may be, we have an understanding that transcends, that stands head and shoulders above all other explanations that are given. Why? Because we are people of Tawheed. And then for us to associate that skill set, that ability to solve people's problems, to help them out, because of our rootedness to Islam. Unfortunately, a series of unfortunate events across history has resulted in this beautiful religion of ours to become an otherworldly religion, not a this world religion. A religion that offers an escape from this world, but not one that offers solutions, practical resolutions for the people of this world in this world. If any of us do bring a skill set through which we do offer the society something, typically we would not be able to attribute the usefulness of that skill set to the Quran, to Tawheed, to our commitment to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It would be something we picked up at a university. It would be something that we learned on the job. And so for us to make a claim that this specific, unique position that I have, what I see, what others don't see, is because of my rootedness in the Quran, my affiliation with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because until we're able to do that, and we know, we believe that that potential is there, that the Quran opens these doors for us, and we should be able to, having that relationship of the Quran, stand out in what we are giving to society, and then delineate for the people in society how our uniqueness, our perspective is better, more effective, more efficacious because of our association with the Quran and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Inni taraktu millata qawmin la yu'minuna billah. In fact, I have forsaken the religion of those who do not believe in Allah. Wa hum bil akhirati hum kafirun. And they even deny the hereafter. وَاتَّبَعْتُ مِلَّةَ آبَائِي. Instead, I follow the path of my forefathers. إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَإِسْحَاقَ وَيَعْقُوبَ. Ibrahim, Ishaq, and Yaqub. مَا كَانَ لَنَا أَن نُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. And never could we ever associate anything with Allah. ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْنَا. That is because of Allah's fadl, Allah's grace bestowed upon us. وَعَلَى النَّاسِ. And His grace upon people. If Allah has graced prophets, and Allah has graced humanity as well, because prophethood brings fruits, brings goodness to the society, to people. It does not lead people to turn away from society, from the problems of humanity. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَشْكُرُونَ. Yet most people are not grateful. يَا صَاحِبِيَ السِّجْنِ. My fellow prisoners, أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. Tell me, are multiple different arbab, different gods, are they better, or Allah, the one, the irresistible? The essence of Tawheed, that worship one Allah. That if you're not committing yourself to the worship of one Allah, of one God, if you have not integrated your own life to the service of Allah, then inevitably you are committing yourself to the worship, to the service, to the obedience of multiple deities. And what that does is it creates a disintegration in your own personalities. You become split up. You become at odds with your own self. The conflicts become internal, because all the different gods that you're serving, they don't get along. They have conflicting interests. They have conflicting values. How do you bring your values in sync? How do you prioritize what to do, what not to do, if you do not have that commitment to Allah Himself? That you have committed to work, to endeavor through worship to prioritize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Again, it is a process that has to be undertaken. Naturally, the plurality in society, the multiplicity of our responsibilities, the different relationships that we have, the different social obligations that we're under, the different people that we're tied to, the different people that we are inspired and influenced by, all of those people are pulling and tugging at us. All of those responsibilities naturally have an influence over us. But for us to be able to look past the conflict in all of those varying influences, it is important for us to tie it back to Allah Himself, to make Allah supreme in our lives, that before anyone else, He takes priority and everything else is subservient to Him. Every other relationship responsibility that we have is aligned under that submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that streamlines a person's life. That brings order in a person's life. It helps us get rid of that chaos, that split, that conflict, that being at odds with all of these different roles, all of these different deities that we're looking to satisfy, all of these different influences that we cannot reconcile. One says A, the other says B. And we don't have any standard to choose between A or B other than convenience, or who's more powerful, who's offering us a bigger incentive. Then that incentive becomes God. But then tomorrow somebody else will offer a different incentive. Then that will become deity. And if that's how our choices are being made, if the standard is not divinely sanctioned, if it's not from Allah, then this disorder and this chaos is naturally going to result in conflict that we all experience, which manifests in all of these different existential crises, anxieties, depressions, family conflicts, societal conflicts, masjid conflicts, political conflicts that we inevitably find ourselves in the middle of. unable to realize what is it that we're supposed to do, and then looking to run away from all of that and not take responsibility. Amillahul wahidul qahhar ma ta'buduna min dunih. Those whom you worship beside him, illa asma'an sammaytumuha antum wa aba'akum. They are nothing but mere names which you and your forefathers have invented. Your idols and the names that you've given to those idols, they do not correspond to anything in reality. They do not have any evidence backing them up. And deities, in terms of idols made of rocks and stones and wood, etc., may not be popular in the world we live in now. Nevertheless, asma'un sammaytumuha, names that people have come up with, and those names take a sacred position, a central position. Those names become God. Why are we doing this? We are doing this for the greatness of blank. And in that blank, you can put a list of names that are invoked because we're the greatest democracy in the world. You can't even say that without smiling, for how ironic that statement is. You replace that with a nation state, any nation state, and whatever stories are fabricated to aggrandize that nation state as if it is the greatest in the world. And it is in the name of that aggrandized nation state name and certain values that that supposed nation state stand for: liberalism, democracy, progress, liberty, pursuit of happiness, you name it. And all of these titles, all of these names, all of these slogans that are raised, the emptiness of which is not explored. Historically, where do they come from? What do they mean? What does this pursuit of liberty mean? What does this freedom of humanity entail? Freedom to do drugs, freedom to be promiscuous, freedom to exploit others. Is that what freedom was intended for? Or was it freedom from God? Freedom from the bounds of tradition and religion? Freedom from scripture? What do these names mean? What is the historical genesis of these names that have such a sacred value that you dare raise your voice against them and you will be cancelled? You will be censored. You will be considered ignorant. إِلَّا أَسْمَاءٌ سَمَّيْتُمُوهَا أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمْ. They are nothing but mere names which you and your forefathers have invented. And these names, concocted names, they are the shirk of today. Capitalism. They develop into social realities which are exploitative, unjust, that we are suffering at the behest of. مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ بِهَا مِن سُلْطَانٍ. Allah has revealed no authority for them. If Allah has not revealed any authority for them, yet those names serve as central tenets in a particular society, then there is somebody in power who is benefiting because of those names. There is somebody who is using those names to become more and more powerful, to amass more and more wealth, to exploit more and more people. Which is why Netanyahu comes to the United States of America and uses the same names to justify whatever is going on in the Middle East today. Whatever is being perpetrated against the people of Raza is being perpetrated. Why? Because we are the representatives of Western civilization, of democracy, of modern values in the Middle East. And these barbarians, these ignorant Arabs, they threaten the great Western civilization. So Western civilization, democracy, liberal values, all of these become names that become a justification for a genocide. And therefore, he gets more standing ovations than anybody else in the history of the Congress. In al-hukmu illa lillah. The decision rests with Allah alone. Whenever human beings open doors to doing stuff without evidence, without authority, without sanction, then they're claiming sovereignty for themselves. They're claiming themselves sovereign. What does it mean for anybody to be sovereign? It means they can use power whenever they want to, however they want to. And nobody can question them. They have the right to declare when it's in self-defense, when it is war which is justified, and when any aggression is terrorism. It's that simple. They have the sovereignty, therefore when they do it, it's just. When somebody else does it, it's terrorism. Because they created the standards, they created the criteria, and they can move that criteria around to suit themselves. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ أَمَرَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهِ. The decision rests with Allah alone. He has legislative authority. And if you do not give Him legislative authority, somebody else is going to take that and he's going to wreak havoc. أَمَرَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهِ. Allah has commanded that you should not worship anyone except Him. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. That is the right deen. Again, the word for a city in Arabic is Medina, a place where deen is done. So any city, any civilization, and civilization associated with cities, with Medinas, so to speak, deen is being done in every city. But if that deen is not associated with Allah ta'budu illallah, that do not worship anyone other than Allah, then rest assured that the deen that is being done in that city, what that Medina is not Madinatul Nabi. Is not the Medina of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It is the Medina of shirk. The deen that is being practiced over there is not tawheed. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But most people do not know. يَا صَاحِبِيَ السِّجْنِ. My fellow prisoners. أَمَّا أَحَدُكُمَا فَيَسْقِي رَبُّهُ خَمْرًا. So he gives them Tawheed 101, his elevator pitch, if you will, as beautifully summarized as it comes, to the two people that he is now about to give a service to. As for one of you, now he interprets their dream for them. فَيَسْقِي رَبَّهُ خَمْرًا. He will serve wine to his Rabb, i.e. the king. وَأَمَّا الْآخَرُ. But for the other, فَيُصْلَبْ. He will be crucified. The one, he's going to get the death sentence, the other will be released, and he will be in the service of the king. فَتَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْ رَأْسِهِ. And birds will pick from his head. قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ. The case has already been decided. الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ. Concerning which you are inquiring. وَقَالَ لِلَّذِي ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ مِّنْهُمَا. And Yousaf said to the one of them whom he thought would be released, اذْكُرْنِي عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ. Mention me to your Rabb, to your master, i.e. the king. فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانُ ذِكْرَ رَبِّهِ. But shaitan made him forget to mention him to his Rabb. So there's two interpretations of this phrase, that the person whom Yousaf alayhi salam said, mention me to the king, the guy forgot to mention him to the king, or Yousaf alayhi salam forgot to mention Allah in this instance. فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. So he stayed in the prison for few years. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ. The king said one day, إِنِّي أَرَى سَبْعَ بَقَرَاتٍ سِمَانٍ. I've seen a dream in which 7 healthy cows, يَأْكُلُهُنَّ سَبْعٌ عِجَافٍ. are being eaten by 7 weak ones. وَسَبْعَ سُنْبُلَاتٍ خُضْرٍ وَأُخَرَ يَابِسَاتٍ. And I saw 7 green spikes of grain and others that were dry. يَا أَيُّهَا الْمَلَأ. So he asks the people in his court, أَفْتُونِي فِي رُؤْيَايَ إِن كُنْتُمْ لِلرُّؤْيَا تَعْبُرُونَ. Tell me the meaning of my dream if you can interpret dreams. قَالُوا أَضْغَاثُ الْأَحْلَامِ أَضْغَاثُ أَحْلَامٍ. They said these are confused, false dreams. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ بِعَالِمِينَ. And we do not know interpretation of dreams. Notice how they dismiss the entire domain of knowledge first as useless, and then they acknowledge they don't know anything about it. The idea being, if it's not my area of expertise, if I'm ignorant about it, it's useless. To show that respect, that it may be useful or good even if I don't know. How about lead with I don't know, rather than leading with the uselessness of it? We start attacking a discipline first, and then acknowledging our own ignorance of it. I haven't read it, I haven't read about it, not a single blog, forget about reading a book, but I have an expert opinion that it's useless. وَمَا نَحْنُ بِتَأْوِيلِ الْأَحْلَامِ بِعَالِمِينَ وَقَالَ الَّذِي نَجَا مِنْهُمَا وَادَّكَرَ بَعْدَ أُمَّةٍ. Thereupon one of the 2 prisoners who was released, and now at length he remembered, and he said, أَنَا أُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِتَأْوِيلِهِ فَأَرْسِلُونَ. I will give you its interpretation, just send me. So he was sent to the prison to see Yousaf alayhi salam, and he said, Yousaf ayyuha as-siddiq. He said, Yousaf, O truthful one, your prophecy came true before. O truthful one, أَفْتِنَا فِي سَبْعِ بَقَرَاتٍ سِمَانٍ. Tell us the meaning of a dream in which there are 7 healthy cows, يَأْكُلُهُنَّ سَبْعَ إِجَافٌ, which are being eaten by 7 weak ones, وَسَبْعِ سُنْبُلَاتٍ خُضْرٍ وَأُخَرَ يَابِسَاتٍ, and 7 green spikes, وَأُخَرَ يَابِسَاتٍ, and 7 others which are dry. لَعَلِّي أَرْجِعُ إِلَى النَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. So that I return to people, letting them know the interpretation of the dream. قال Yousaf alayhi salam responded, تَزْرَعُونَ سَبْعَ سِنِينَ دَأْبًا. You will cultivate for 7 years continuously. فَمَا حَسَدْتُمْ فَذَرُوهُ فِي سُنْبُلِهِ. During this time, whatever you reap, leave it in the spikes. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِمَّا تَأْكُلُونَ. Except a little what you eat. The best way to preserve whatever it is that you're going to reap in those years. ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ سَبْعٌ شِدَادٌ. That period will be followed by another period of 7 hard years. يَأْكُلُهُنَّ مَا قَدَّمْتُمْ لَهُنَّ. They will consume what you have stored for them. إِلَّا قَلِيلًا مِمَّا تُحْسِنُونَ. Except that which you have specially set aside. ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مِن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ عَامٌ. After that there will come a year, فِيهِ يُغَاثُ النَّاسِ, in which people will receive abundant rain, وَفِيهِ يَعْصِرُونَ, and then they will press, i.e. they will squeeze out juice from grapes and olives, etc. Again, a dream that Yousaf alayhi salam interprets. This is the 3rd dream that we see, 4th in the very beginning of the surah itself, one that Yousaf alayhi salam saw. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam has informed us of what remains of prophethood is dreams, that even now, even in the aftermath of prophethood being sealed, there will be no more prophets. Yet, whatever is that prophethood communicated, i.e. intuition, true intuitions from Allah, true knowledge from Allah, that still persists in the form of dreams. And that does not necessarily depend on righteousness or piety of a person. So we will hear of narratives, we will hear of dreams coming from all different sources of people who will see, hear, experience something in dreams which will result in something happening later on. And there is ample evidence accumulated in literature which talks about how incredibly impossible predictions in dreams have come true. Every single one of you here is familiar with the periodic table of elements, yes? Mendeleev saw that in a dream. The person who organized the periodic table of elements, he saw that in a dream. So that which is a cornerstone of our scientific practice today was not something that was tested in a laboratory per se. It was tested in laboratories later and is still being tested. Nevertheless, what those tests are telling us is confirming what was experienced in a dream by somebody who was looking for a way to organize all the elements that were known up until that time. And he could not figure out how. So he was struggling for it. The struggle was responded to, his labors were responded to in a dream that he saw. And so many other phenomena that we can speak of, which are intuitively grasped rather than logically worked out per se, to the point that within the study of logic, there is a space, there is an understanding for intuitive experiences, that they have to be accounted for. Not everything can be worked out deductively or experimentally. How does an experiment begin? Where does the hypothesis come from? A very important source of that is intuitive, and one form of intuition, of course, is in dreams. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ. The king said, bring him to me. فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُ الرَّسُولُ قَالَ ارْجِعْ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ فَاسْأَلْهُ مَا بَالُ النِّسْوَةِ اللَّاتِي قَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. So Yousaf alayhi salam was called to the king. The messenger goes to Yousaf alayhi salam. You're free to go. Yousaf said, not so fast. I'm not getting out of here because I did something that the king wants me for. I have been framed. I want to make sure that I get out of here with all the blame that was associated with me. That has to be taken away. Again, the nature of his work, a nature of anybody's work who associates themselves with Allah, takes on the responsibility. Reputation matters. So Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, would make sure that his reputation is blemish-free, because the nature, the sensitivity of the work that he's doing. And that reputation, even if there's an offhand chance that somebody suspects, then that makes the reliability of the work that they're doing, it puts a question mark on it. So much of what we do, so much of who we are, you cannot remove the moral, the ethical, the human element from it. And so Yousaf alayhi salam says, no, first ask them, what was that case? I want to open that case up again. The women who cut their hands, for whom I was framed. Inna Rabbi bikaydihinna alim. My Rabb is in full knowledge of their scheming. Qala, the king said, Ma khatbukuna idh rawattunna Yusufa an nafsi. What was the matter when you all sought to seduce Yusuf for yourselves? قُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ. They said, oh my God, مَا عَلِمْنَا عَلَيْهِ مِنْ سُوءٍ. We know of no evil on his part. Now the case gets a hearing. Up until this point, the case never even got a hearing. Yousaf alayhi salam was imprisoned without any formal procedures. قالت امرأة العزيز. The minister's wife also said, الآن حسحس الحق. The truth has now become established. أنا راودته عن نفسي. It was me. I tried to seduce him. وإنه لمن الصادقين. And he is absolutely truthful. ذلك. Yousaf alayhi salam now says, I asked for all of that. لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. I wanted the minister to know, the minister in whose house he was at that point, that I did not betray him in his absence. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. And Allah does not guide the plan of those who betray. At some point it's going to come back to them. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. I do not absolve myself. Again, no declaration of absolute purity, even though he has every right to make such a declaration. Inna nafsa la'ammaratum bisu. For sure, the nafs always incites evil. It is in the nature of human nature that it incites towards evil. Compare this to claims of self-purification that so many of us are prone to. I can't even think about this like that. How can you even imagine that I would do something like this? I can't even think like this. The thought would never cross my mind, not in my wildest imagination. Again, all of these claims of self-purity. What do we see coming from a prophet? He's saying, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. I am not absolving myself. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. Nafs does command very strongly to evil. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. Except one whom my Rabb has mercy upon. So I'm not going to stand here arrogant about being pious and righteous and truthful and look down on all these people who've acknowledged their sin. No, Allah had mercy on me. It just as well could have been me. Inna Rabbi Ghafurur Rahim. Indeed, my Rabb is forgiving and merciful. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ أَسْتَخْلِصْهُ لِنَفْسِي. Now the king said, bring him to me. I will give him a special position. I will attach him to myself. فَلَمَّا كَلَّمَهُ. So when he had a conversation with him, قَالَ إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. You are today established and trustworthy. All cases have been resolved. You have been completely absolved of everything. قَالَ جَعَلْنِي عَلَى خَزَائِنِ الْأَرْضِ. Yousaf alayhi salam said, appoint me over the storehouses of the land. In a sense, Yousaf alayhi salam is saying, give me the finance ministry. And this level of confidence that is typically not spoken of to aspire for positions, to aspire for responsibilities, is not something which is encouraged as such. It's become a culture for us. But we see here, Yousaf alayhi salam realizes that any fake humility at this point means that this ministry goes to somebody who does not deserve it. And then they do with that authority what people who do not deserve authority do with authority. They trash it. And then everybody suffers. And then the person who was being very humble, no, what can I do? No, I'm worthless. I'm just, a humble servant of God. That's not helping anybody. To have, if you know it, then you show it. You stand by it, and then you live up to it. If you get away from responsibility, then whoever takes up that responsibility and does bad, then the person who backed off in the name of humility, who was arrogant in their humility, is the one blameworthy. Inni hafidhun alim. I am a knowledgeable custodian. وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Thus we established Yusuf in the land. يَتَبَوَّأُ مِنْهَا حَيْثُ يَشَاءُ. He could live wherever he wanted. نُصِيبُ بِرَحْمَتِنَا مَنْ نَشَاءُ. We afflict with our mercy whoever we will. وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And we do not let the reward of the people of ihsan go to waste. When Yusuf alayhi salam was in the house of the Aziz, he was a person of ihsan. When Yusuf alayhi salam was in the prison, he was a person of ihsan. All the suffering that he had to endure, he had every right to say, in all of those situations, why me? It's not fair. Why did God do this to me? What did I do to deserve this? Why did my brothers at such a young age abandon me in a well, sell me off as a slave, and then I got harassed by this manic woman, and then not just one woman but multiple women, and then I got thrown in jail without any trial, and then I got forgotten in that jail and I had to spend extra years in that jail. It's at any one of those moments, if he said, why me? It would have been understandable. But Yusuf alayhi salam held on to ihsan throughout. And now the reward starts coming. After all that time, with him recognizing there is a wisdom behind all of this from Allah, I stand firm. I accept my fate with dignity, even if it's painful. God doesn't owe me happiness. He doesn't owe me felicity. What He does give me is opportunities to live up to the meanings, even if they are in situations of suffering, to stand up with ihsan, with dignity, and say, I accept, and I'm going to do my best, even if it is in jail. وَلَأَجْرُ الْآخِرَةِ خَيْرٌ. And of course, the return of the hereafter is better. لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. For those who believe, and they are people of taqwa. وَآخِرُ دَعْوَانَا أَنِ الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Please, if there's any comments.
You mentioned what is left from the Prophet. What do you mean by that? And what areas are there?
So what is left of prophethood is true dreams. So that's a true dreams. So every other aspect of prophethood closed off. The Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, last Nabi, last Rasul. But then there is that one door. I believe the words of the hadith are 146th portion of prophethood remains, which is in the form of true dreams.
But this would be in the Sharia.
It cannot be in Sharia. So the understanding is that they will not alter the Sharia. They will not in any way change how the Sharia was given to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Additional information, non-Sharia knowledge for sure, but not Sharia. Barakallahu feek. Okay, please. Okay, I do not know specifics. I don't know. He was old enough, is what I can say. And it was at least, I do believe that Tafasir mentioned the number of years, but I do not recall right now. Please. So, again, there's three types of dreams, as the Prophet ﷺ told us, from Allah, from shaitan, and then there are those which are pretty random, right? And yes, within scholarship, there would be people who would have given particular attention in the interpretation of dreams. And they would offer those interpretations. They would claim that expertise as well. Ibn Sirin's book is typically cited as one of the most comprehensive texts when it comes to dreams and the symbols within dreams. And we find a lot from the Prophet ﷺ, from Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, later scholars. There isn't, however, a particular course that anybody takes. I mean, with a lot of other specialities, we would have how somebody gets an ijaza or a sanad or with all of that. I don't think there is one as such for dreams. It is more that is just acquired. And as with everything else, there is people who are gifted, and then there are people who are trained. And with this, I'd say there's possibilities in both areas. Right? Okay.
Some people are claiming that can happen as false claims.
The Prophet ﷺ said, if you see me in the dream, then you've seen me in the dream. Shaitan cannot take my form. However, that does come with a caveat that he's saying that to the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum who have seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in person. And so when they see him in the dream, they know. Does it extend to others who do not know, who have not seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Perhaps. It goes both ways. As I understand it, scholars have seen it both ways, that there is this sense that you have. There's a sense that believers have. Now, regardless, even if you are seeing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, does that give you authority in any way to bypass Sharia or anything else? No. Can you bring that dream as evidence in an argument? No. Can we use that dream to spiritually blackmail people in our family to get our way? No. It is a very personal experience, and it is for personal guidance. To use that in communal affairs, again, if you have that authority, go for it. Otherwise, we can't use that to squeeze our way through. All right, Jazakumullah, please. Fair enough. So again, there's a strategy there as well. There's a strategy there already. Who is asking Yousaf alayhi salam is the king. Yousaf alayhi salam up until this point is a nobody. He has not established his credentials. As far as the king is concerned, how does Yousaf alayhi salam have something solid to offer? He doesn't know. With this interpretation of dreams, now the bargaining chip is in his hand. Now he has shown what he's capable of. Now when the king says, I need him, bring him to me, Yousaf alayhi salam says, not so fast. But to say that yes, to offer that help, but again, we can go back to the previous incident where the people in the prison asked him for the interpretation. He did help them, but before he helped them, he gave them an entire introduction to Tawheed 101. That he established, and then he offered to help in a way that he could, right? All right. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.